You're all set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, James. I want to welcome everybody to the Town Planning and Zoning Commission special meeting, December 9th, 2020. If everybody could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll do roll call now. If Noreen, is Noreen on? Any chance? James, do you see Noreen?
Yes, she's here, Dominic.
Noreen, if you could do the roll call, I'd appreciate it.
I am trying to unmute her.
Okay.
Looks like you got it, Noreen.
Okay, all set. Chairman Payne,
Here.
Commissioner Claffey,
Here.
Commissioner Fox,
He called me. He is he's not feeling well. He's in the hospital, so we wish him the best. Okay.
yep, Commissioner Havens,
Here.
Commissioner Linares,
Here.
Commissioner Sobieski,
Yeah.
Commissioner Woods,
Here.
Commissioner Braverman,
Here.
Commissioner Gill,
Here.
Commissioner Haggerty.
Here.
Okay,
Okay. Thank you very much, Noreen.
sure.
So as I stated, we're going to sit Commissioner Braverman for Commissioner Fox, and I think we all wish a speedy recovery for Commissioner Fox.
Yes, we do.
And the first thing we're doing on the special meeting is election of officers. So I'll entertain nominations for chairman.
Entertain a motion to ask that Chairman or Chairman Payne stay on as the current chairman. He's done us very well. He's done this town very well. And I think it'd be great to continue with him at the helm.
Thank you, Commissioner Claffey. Do I have a second?
Second, Commissioner Havens.
Commissioner Havens, thank you, Commissioner. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. At this time, we'll take nominations for vice chairman.
Commissioner Payne, Commissioner Linares here.
Thank you, Commissioner Lawrence. Go right ahead.
I'd like to make a recommendation, a nomination to appoint Commissioner Claffey to stay on as vice chairman. He's done a nice job at attending the meetings, taking over sometimes when we've had some glitches in the system, and stepped right in. So I'd like to nominate Commissioner to retain his vice chairmanship.
Thank you, Commissioner Linares. Do I have a second?
Second, Commissioner Havens.
Thank you, Commissioner Havens. Are any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? All in favor of Commissioner Claffey for vice chairman?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Congratulations, Commissioner Claffey.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And could we have nominations for secretary?
Commissioner Payne, I'll do it again if I may.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Linares.
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Havens again to stay on as secretary for the TPZ. He does such a wonderful job reading our rules into the record. I'd like to nominate him again to do so.
Thank you, Commissioner Linares. Do I have a second?
Second for Commissioner Havens.
Thank you. Seconded by Commissioner Claffey. Are there any other nominations for secretary? Are there any other nominations for secretary? Are there any other nominations for secretary? Hearing none, all in favor of Commissioner Havens for secretary? Aye.
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 Opposed? Congratulations, Commissioner Havens.
Thank you.
I want to thank all the commissioners. I appreciate your support. And I think this commission has done a very good job over the past year. Next thing on the agenda is the setting of our regular meeting dates. Our town planner has given us a copy of that. It's, does anybody have any questions concerning those dates?
So far, no.
No, I don't see a problem. None, and we've taken care of the November 10th, which is not Veterans Day like it was this past year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. Is
Also,
everybody,
can I ask one more question? We've looked to make sure there's no Jewish holidays that any of these dates lie on. I know that happened 2 years ago. Just want to make sure with the transition of planners, just make sure we've all checked that.
I'll go to the town planner, see if she, I think she probably did double check that.
Yeah, I'm just, you know,
Yeah.
Honestly, Mr. Chair, I did not review
Okay,
these dates versus either Jewish holidays or Veterans Day, but my staff was instructed to avoid those, so I'm hoping that none of it overlap.
they usually do a pretty good job of it, so I don't think there's any problems. Does any of the commissioners see a problem with any of those dates?
So far, no.
Okay, so hearing none, if we could have a motion to accept the meeting dates for 2021.
I make a motion that we accept the meeting dates presented tonight for the 2021 year, to also include the January 12th, 2022 date.
Okay, a motion made by Commissioner Claffey, and do I have a second?
Second, Commissioner Havens.
A second from Commissioner Havens. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries for the meeting dates for 2021. We have appointments to CROG, Regional Planning Commission, and I think it was Commissioner Sobieski, and is it possible Commissioner Woods was also a backup on that? Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Yes, it is, but I believe they changed it to a 2-year appointment. So we got another year to go before we come up for re-election again.
Okay, so do we not have these appointments? You're already on there? Is that?
That's correct. I believe it's 2 years. You can have the planner check it, but I believe that was changed last year.
Okay.
That is correct. I do remember Craig giving that information, Mr. Chairman, and I do have my list in front of me showing that they expire at their term expiration of TPZ on 11/30/2021.
Okay, so it's unnecessary to reappoint them again right now.
Correct.
And, okay, very good. If there's nothing else, I would ask for a motion to adjourn. And if everybody could remember, we're going to all stay on this and we're going to go into the next meeting.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made by Commissioner Woods. Do I have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Sobieski. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? We are adjourned. And we will meet in a couple minutes for the regular meeting. We can start now, James, if you would like.
Sure can. Hold on. There you are, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. I want to welcome everybody to the Town Planning and Zoning Commission for December 9th, 2020. We've already done the Pledge of Allegiance. I would ask well, we'll do Pledge of Allegiance again for this meeting. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Noreen, if you could do the roll call one more time, please, I'd appreciate it.
He's on mute.
Does appear she might have stepped away for a second.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Lenars?
Oh. Hold on, she's there.
There we go.
He's got to unmute her.
Chairman Payne,
Here.
Commissioner Claffey,
Here.
Commissioner Fox, Commissioner Havens,
Here.
Commissioner Linares,
Here.
Commissioner Sobieski,
Here.
Commissioner Woods,
Here.
Commissioner Braverman,
Here.
Commissioner Gill,
Here.
Commissioner Haggerty.
Here.
All set.
Okay, thank you very much, Noreen. And we're going to sit Commissioner Braverman for Commissioner Fox tonight. We will go into approval of the agenda. The Renata, there's no changes, is that correct?
There are no changes proposed now.
Thank you very much. Next thing on the agenda is public participation for items not listed on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 2 minutes. You could use the Zoom raise hand function if there's somebody. And then I believe we have one email that will be read into the minutes in a little while. If there's anybody from the public that would like to speak, you can have the floor now. Okay. Andres, go right ahead.
You're referring to me, Chairman Payne? I thought I was
You
on
had
the
your-
agenda.
You had your hand up, Andres.
I hit
you're on the-
participation. I just hit the participation. I didn't put my,
Oh, okay.
sorry about
No,
that.
Not a problem, Andres, not a problem. Is there anybody else from the public that would like to speak? Okay,
We do
We're
have
gonna-
one. Oh, couple
Oh,
now
okay.
coming through.
okay. Kara's, go right ahead.
I am prompting her to unmute.
Okay.
There we
Am
go.
I on?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. This is Cara Santor from 93 Francis Avenue. And since we all just signed in, we're talking about the up near the fast track and the stuff that was presented last time. Just want to make sure I'm on the right thing that we're discussing.
You're talking about our agenda item?
Yes, I don't have the agenda in front of me.
Yeah, we're going to have a discussion about potential, the Newington Junction area.
Yes.
Basically about whether or not we want to get it on the agenda, how we're going to reach out to the public, and how far we're going to reach out to the public, how many streets in the surrounding area, and whether we're going to get a letter to them, things like that. And then there'll be an opportunity for you at the end if you have any other questions. But that's basically what it is. We're not going to get into content. or things like that, but just about the best method to include the public so we can hear from everybody.
Okay, thank you. And I mean, we're going to have to get into some kind of content, but one of the other ways we can do this that the public wants, people I've spoken to, is to have a charrette, to get us all together. And I think in person would be a much better way. We can do social distancing, but there's a lot of people out there very concerned about this because it will seriously change the character of the neighborhood. So I know you don't want content, but just a couple of things. I live on Francis Avenue. They built the fast track. They took down all the trees. I can hear noise. I can hear cars. I can hear the train. I back out of my driveway. I see all the lights up there and people going by. It's not the way it used to be. And it seriously impacts our quality of life. And if somebody's talking about 500 parking spaces.
Well, that was a pure example of something that was a poor example of something from a previous applicant. And so it was a poor example of an example of what would be over there.
Okay.
I think that if we're going to address this area, that we have to take extra precaution with proper buffering with the residential area. And we also need to be very considerate of the historical houses in the area. And there's a few other things I'm sure that the public has concerns of. And so that's our intention. Our intention is to hear from you at our meetings, and we're going to get messages out to people so that we can hear your concerns so that we can address them at the proper time.
Okay, and just again, one last thing, and then I'll finish. With the traffic, sometimes you sit at that light at West Hill if you're heading down Willard Avenue towards the Turnpike, and that light can turn red twice and you haven't even moved through it. And I know that, that's a failure. You can't add traffic to what's already there that we can't deal with.
Okay.
So, last time we had a public participation, when we finished, I thought the TPZ said, okay, it's off the table, we're done. And now here it is back again. And I just wondering if you can answer that now. How exactly did that happen?
We decided to take the west side off the agenda because there was a lot of questions on the west side. And we were concerned that we didn't get the proper messaging out to people. So we took the west side off. We want to properly notify people when we decide to have it on the agenda so that we can have plenty of public participation at our meetings.
Okay, and I suggest that you mail stuff out to all the residents so that everybody in the surrounding areas for several streets going both ways are notified.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome, thank you.
James, is there anybody else that would like to speak? We have anybody else?
Not on the attendee side. Actually, Mr. Claffey took his hand down. Oh, Mr. Novio just showed up. Hold on one moment.
Okay.
Okay, you should be live, Mr. Novio.
Hear me?
Yep.
Okay, Commissioner Payne, did you take the west side off the agenda or the east side?
I could have my west and east side wrong. The
west side was the gas station. The east side is the fast track side.
Well, thank you very much for correcting me. You're correct. We took the east side off the agenda. I'm sorry for that mistake. What the west side, there was not many complaints aside of the gas station. So we addressed that. And now we'd like to address the east side with the proper public participation from the residents in that area.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure that was correct. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Commissioner Claffey, did you have anything?
Yeah, I did, but I think I want to bring it up when we get to new business, just to clarify for my own being some of the comments made in the public participation. I just want to see if I can make sure I understand it right. I'll wait till we get to that item on the agenda.
Okay, very good. If there's no other public comment, I would ask the town planner if she could read the email that she received, I believe late this afternoon.
I certainly-
Unless, did that go out to everybody?
No, I have
No.
forwarded this email only to you. I can read it now, or I can read it at the end of the meeting, because I think some of these concerns will also be discussed when we talk about this.
Yeah,
So
you could read it now.
public, okay. Let me just pull up her email. Just give me a second, because as this always happens, nothing will scroll now. So here it goes. Dear Ms. Bertati, I would like to request that my comments be read into the public participation part of the TPZ meeting this evening. Thank you. Dear Commissioners, I'd like to express an opinion about the necessity and importance of public participation in town governance. In the 2010-2020 Plan of Development, the public participated, and it was clearly noted on page 36 that the public was not supportive of high-density housing in the area of Newington Junction. The desire to maintain Newington's character as a small town was also repeatedly expressed in that plan. I would like to remind commissioners that when residents state their wishes in considerable numbers and a new plan is developed without considering the plan that was current and developed with resident input, it gives residents a message that their opinion did not matter. Perhaps this can explain the lack of participation at your meetings. In the new plan of development, traffic and congestion was the #1 concern in Newington. It is viewed as a deterrent to living here. How is that a recent plan for Newington Junction has featured 90 resident units and 500 parking spaces? Do commissioners think that these spaces will be filled by cars? And if so, how does that plan fit in with the #1 annoyance and detraction to living in Newington as stated by the community participation in the 2020-2030 plan? What is the point of having residents participate in planning development if plans are then developed that completely dismiss residents' expressed concerns? Thank you. Margaret Banash, 145 Star Avenue, Newington.
Okay, thank you very much, Renata. Is there any other public comments?
Nobody else on at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, James. We're going to go to the zoning enforcement officer report. We'll ask if Mr. Hinckley could give us a report, and we'll see if any commissioners have any questions.
Yeah, you have the, good evening, commissioners. You have the report in front of you. Obviously, it was my first one, so if I've forgive any egregious errors. A lot of these were for unregistered vehicles and some other junk and debris type of issues. I also responded to a lot of blight issues, which aren't on here because they kind of overlap, but blight has a little bit different timeline and structure. So I'm open to any questions if anybody has any.
I just had one. You have on 295 Main Street on Shell gas station, I guess they had a vacuum that was installed that was against their site plan approval. I'm not, is it possible that with a minor modification, that if this business is in need of that, we could address that in the future?
Oh, absolutely. If they were to ask for that, I don't see why it wouldn't. It was an express condition of the original approval, so no vacuums on the site. I assume it was because of the nearby resident or residents. You know, it was approved under Ed Meehan, so I think it was sometime in the 90s even.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see why a site plan modification would be fine.
Yeah. Do you? I would imagine that, you know, I know it's close to residents. Maybe it just wouldn't be open all night long. That's all. I mean, they must have on-offs and timers on those things so that you can't vacuum at off hours.
Yeah, I would assume so as well. Another condition of their approval said they can only operate between the hours of sunrise and sunset. that's a little ambiguous as sunrise and sunset changes each time. So yeah, I'm sure if they came forth for a modification, they could request, hard hours and a vacuum and stuff like that. I wouldn't see an issue with that.
Okay. Do you, if you get a chance, if you could contact them, tell them that if there's something that's their business needs and they would like to address a couple of these things,
I can do that. The owner is in Florida. I've dealt with him on some other things, but I can, try and talk to, I believe the car wash is actually a little different than the gas station. I think he leases that. I can't remember, but I can certainly reach out to them.
Is there any other, Commissioner Sobieski, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Payne. Quick question. I got a call the other day about Cashway Motors again. He had 2 trucks parked in the town right away, and then they're moved, and then they're back. Have you gotten any complaints from any other residents? Eric?
No, I haven't. I spoke to Chief Clark, called me the other day about that. They got a couple removed. We know what he's doing there. He's just, jockeying cars around. When we cite them, they move and they come back in a few days.
Well, they can park there during the day, right?
From what I understand. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I don't know what the final rules were that were set when he can park there. I know the general area where he can and can't park, but I don't.
There's no limitation, from what I understand. There's no limitation during the day where he can park. It's just that he's not supposed to leave stuff overnight, I believe.
Well, there is some Amtrak right-of-way issues there if he goes beyond a certain point. I know that in the past they've gotten the Amtrak officer out there to ask him to move some things as well. That's what I was told anyway.
Yeah, that's if he left it in the Amtrak easement area.
Correct.
The point was not to leave anything overnight there.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Claffey?
Not quite finished.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Sobieski, why don't you finish up and then we'll go to Commissioner
The call
Claffey.
I got was they were junks and they were not movable. They were flatbedded in and flatbedded out. That's what the resident told me. I suggested he called Eric. That's all.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, he must have gotten in touch with the PD, because when I spoke to Chief Clark yesterday, he said, yeah, one of them was just a burned out Hulk and another one. And he said they did get removed, but he had called me as well, but they were removed in the interim.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sobieski. Commissioner Claffey.
Okay. In regards to that property and more of that area and then down Day Street by Marabelli Motors, I'd really like to get a clarification in regards to the Cashway Lumber Automobile, whatever his company name is. And I say that because it seems we know there's a problem there, but a lot of people forget to then drive down by Marabelli, and he has wreckers that park out on the street during the business days. And I want to make sure that we're not, citing somebody for something that we think is a violation when, maybe they can park during the days on the right of way. What are we classifying that? Is it the street? Because yes, I've seen him have cars in front of Cashway Lumber. I've also seen him parking his cars in other people's lots up there in that area. And it's kind of weird if we're going to try to go after somebody for something that we think might be a violation, but in technicality is only if it's after dark. Then we have to really look at the town as a whole, of some areas of our town where we're heavy industrial and heavy commercial, where an average driver has to navigate that. And it's technically out of our jurisdiction as TPZ and put more on the police department. So if the planning department and our CEO can get some clarification in regards to Cashway Lumber, I'm totally not against figuring that out, but it seems like we go to bat with this guy year after year, week after week. And, there's many other businesses we could be doing the same. I just don't want the business to come back and say, oh, you guys are picking on me. And then we know how this could resolve. So if we could just get some clarification on really, can he park it next to the street line? Can he not? What the deal is? Because now I'm kind of confused myself. and I know he's a repeat violator. It's on that cusp of being a repeat violator.
Those are great points, Commissioner Claffey. Enforcement with consistency is extremely important. We want to be consistent and fair throughout the whole town. Renata, do you think you could contact the town attorney and ask for a clarification of what that property owner can do and what he can't do?
Absolutely. In all of my experience, zoning jurisdictions end at the property line. Like zoning would not normally be an avenue to use in these kind of situations. It could be through blight or police, but we can reach to the town attorney and get like an actual like legal opinion on it.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any other questions from commissioners?
I got one other kind of comment in regards to the report for
Yes.
our VEO. I definitely know that I've seen by this report, probably the longest report I've seen in quite a while, even some pre-COVID times. I want to ask one thing, as I've noticed it's all staff related, staff. Are we just going with a carpet staff now as the person calling it in, or have we gotten no residents or business owners calling in violations? That's one question I have. And secondly, I like seeing reports like this. I'm a proponent of, if we keep our neighborhoods clean, then it all follows suit and we don't have that discussion of terrible neighborhoods. One area of concern I saw, and I just want to bring it up here, is now that, how are we going, I don't want to use the word going after, but I guess ascertaining violators, as we drive down the street. Like I was driving down Robbins Ave today, and for whatever reason, I haven't really looked, around the neighborhood, but now the leaves are off and things are sticking out. And there was a bunch of properties I saw from the Berlin Turnpike, or is that East Robbins? Berlin Turnpike down about to Miami Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
And, you just kind of, your eye turns and looks behind the house. And I mean, there was one house that had 2 or 3 dual axle construction trailers. And
yeah, I spoke to that gentleman yesterday.
so I'm just trying to see, like, and believe me, we have a lot of things on the plate, but just how, like, I saw it, I'm like, and then I see your report. I saw your report the other day. I'm like, wow, 4 pages. That's a good amount of work. So I just kind of want to get from you. I mean, you're new to us. We're new to you. You've been here a few meetings. I just like, how are you doing it? Like, we knew how Andrew did it. We knew how Mike D'Amato did it. Some of us who knew Mike D'Amato. So, kind of, is this kind of standard now that you're just putting in your name as a staff, as my original question, and then how we resolve this?
Yeah, on some of that, yes, and some of it I see as I drive by. Others are calls that come into the front desk and they're just given to me by the secretary, and they either don't want to leave their name or they don't necessarily take the name, so they just give me a slip, a note that says, hey, there's XYZ going on here. If you want, I can differentiate and put public and staff if you'd like, or if I get a name, I can do that. I don't know if you want to see that.
I don't need to see it. I don't know what other commissioners. I know some commissioners wanted to see, and some powers higher than the TPZ always were, we want to know who called in that complaint. I really don't care who calls in the complaint, because if someone's calling in the complaint, then there's an issue to be addressed. And then we leave it up to you to, is it an issue or is it just 2 neighbors fighting over, a fence type thing?
Right.
So I'm cool with the way it looks. I think it's great. I think it's very descriptive. The 4 pages of info, where you're at, where you've been. I like it. So, I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Any other questions from commissioners? Commissioner Havens?
It's just to tack on to what Commissioner Claffey said. As far as whether it's staff or public, I'd like to see that. I don't think that we need to be publishing the names if somebody calls in a complaint. That just could open up a whole different can of worms. it'd be interesting just to see the split between, what comes in from the public versus what the staff is seeing. That's my only comment.
All right, understood. That's fair. We can work that in.
Thank you, Commissioner Havens.
Thank you.
Mr. Hinckley, is there any questions? Do you have any questions for us as commissioners on sign enforcement or other types of enforcement that you may have questions on?
Sure. Anything you guys would like to review? I know signs in the past have been, a hot button topic for you guys. I know we've kind of, because of COVID, we've kind of relaxed a little bit on those. And I understand. So if you want to have a discussion about signs, we certainly can. One of my bigger peeves is probably chickens. I get calls about chickens twice a week. So that's, everybody wants chickens. Currently the rule is 5 acres or more. And, so some people still want to have chickens regardless.
Okay, that was another question I was gonna ask you, whether or not it was still popular. And
Yep.
Obviously it is. And I'll talk to the town planner, and I think if the commissioners don't have an objection, maybe we need to relook at that regulation for chicken. I know we started to look at it, and we've looked at some other towns, and maybe we can come up with something that works for Newington. Commissioner Claffey, do you have a question?
I think that the chickens are definitely something to discuss. But I think I would leave that up to the town planner to kind of get the info and then present it to us at a later date. Going back, and I've been a vast proponent, and half the commission knows that I'm a sign guy. I don't care for them in our town, but I go with what the commission agrees to. And I know COVID is very sensitive. It's very hard, but again, today driving up the pike, and it's not the restaurants that are violators. They are following the directions. They've asked for some leniency. They've been given it through, the business groups and the chamber. But the problem I'm seeing, with signs, the underlayment of signs is banners. The underlayment of banners is flags. And when I say flags, I don't mean the American flag or the anything like that. I mean the flags that we have cited people time and time and time again, are these banner flags that go stick in the ground and then they stand 8, 10, 12 feet high. And to be clear, I drove up the pike today. I didn't see any for any of the restaurants. All I saw were the, A-frame signs saying open or delivery or come on in. But these banner type, as I call them, standing banners that blow in the wind, that are close to the road. I think we need to address that, not with kid gloves, because a lot of the violations I saw today were repeat violators from over 2, 3, 4 years ago that were cited by our commission, by our ZEO, and then mysteriously, because of COVID, I think we've laxed it, which is fine. We need our businesses to thrive, but they're back again, and they're going to cause problems because, any given day you get a 40-degree wind gust and that thing shoots across out of the ground. There was a reason why we did the A-frame signs within 5 feet of a building, on the sidewalk, not to be in, all this other stuff. And I think it's something we need to address. And I don't think we have to have kid gloves with it. I know with our restaurants, with some of this, yes, we have, but it's getting a little out of control. So I don't love the input from everyone else, love the input from our planner, but these yard flags, as I guess I'll call them, I don't want to call them a flag because people can have a flagpole in their business if it's been approved, etc. So, but it's repeat violators, and I'm not going to name them. I think Dominic, you know who they are. I think some of the other commissioners know who they are. So, I think that needs to be addressed.
Thank you, Commissioner Claffey. Thank you very much. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe all the ones that you're talking about are the 95, 96, 97% of them are all within the right of way of the public road.
The ones today that I saw, Some of them were, yeah, in line with the right of way, but again, I'm not the guy making, even though the telephone pole in theory you think is the right of way, it could be behind that further. It changes as you go up the pike. So
Yes.
I'm not going to say that they were in the right of way, but they were definitely within, 10 feet of the Berlin Turnpike pavement. Where other times where we've approved a banner type or that blow up thing that you see sometimes in front of the mattress store or car dealership, we've approved in different locations due to safety of power lines and stuff like that. But these are ones that are literally right out on the street. It's the same like half a dozen businesses.
Matter of fact, I think there's been a few new ones up now that they've noticed that there's been no problems with some of the other ones. Do any of the other commissioners have any comments concerning the signs? Renata, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
With regards to the chicken, I think I'm like somewhat of a chicken pro planner because I had to adopt the chicken regulation in Manchester as well as Meriden. And it is a little thing, it seems a little silly and, something that why would we spend our time on that today when like we have all this other stuff going on. However, particularly in Meriden, obviously, I'm not super familiar how much time is spent in Newington since I've only worked here a month. But I know from Meriden that it was a huge time suck on my staff. Like we would receive a lot of phone call, a lot of complaints, a lot of enforcement letters went out, ZBA variance applications filed in. So we should probably, and the best way to address it is just adopt a regulation that regulates it. So we can consider that definitely, and hopefully before spring. Right now, chickens are not really happening all that much. The other thing about signage is I'm not familiar with how our regulations are with regards to the temporary signage. It is the best if we have some kind of system where temporary signage is regulated by time and amount and registered with the town. And if that's the case, then it's clear and easy to cite without having to do violation notices and all these other things. The issue with temporary sign is that by the time we issue a notice of violation or cease and desist order, people will take that sign out. It's generally something stuck with like a little metal pin into the ground and you just yank it out for a minute. And then as soon as we turn around, you put it again, and then we have to restart the process. If we can look into our regs and perhaps check with our town attorney if we can issue citations. That tends to resonate a little bit better. And, they can be a visual blight in a commercial area. So we probably should see if we can do something about it.
I think a lot of the ones that we were talking about are in the right of way, and we don't have to file any citations with the ones in the right of way. We can just remove them.
We can remove the one in Upland, yeah.
And then if it happens to be a business, that's you could bring the sign up to the business and say, hey, this is in the right of way. If you'd like, I'd be happy to try to explain to you where we could add your sign, or you can come in and apply for a temporary sign or a temporary banner. We have that in the regulations, and it's by time. So people are allowed to do that. So I think we can look at this a little closer. Commissioner Woods and then Commissioner Sobieski. Commissioner Woods, did you have a question?
No, Mr. Chairman, I do not.
Okay. Commissioner Sobieski?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Payne. The town has the right-of-way plans for the Berlin Turnpike. I turned over a set of them. I think Eric knows where they are. But the right-of-way on the Berlin Turnpike varies between 250 and 300 feet. Now, we addressed this issue with Craig when he was here, and all you have to do is cite him and have the town planner call District 1, Kevin Campbell, file a complaint, and they'll go out and remove them if they're in the state right-of-way.
Well, I think that the town in the past has talked to the state and they have said that the town highway can take them down or town can take them out of the state right away. I think they've worked something out where we don't have to call the state, the town can take them out of the state right away.
As long as you have something in writing, then you're all set. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there any other comments from the commissioners?
Yeah, Tom Gill.
Yes, Commissioner Gill.
Yes, and in regards to the signage along with the temporary, goes back to the address. And I'm definitely a proponent of getting addresses on all of our signage. And would there be a way of us putting it into the rules and regulations that new signs have the address on them, and also the temporary that would tell us right away what business it belongs to. No.
Thank you, Commissioner Gill. Any other comments? Okay, thank you, Mr. Hinckley. I appreciate your zoning enforcement officer report.
No problem. Thank you.
Do I have any other remarks by commissioners? Next thing on the agenda is the approval of minutes for November 23rd, 2020.
Make the
I'll
motion
entertain
to
a
approve.
motion made by Commissioner Sobieski. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Braverman. Is there any corrections to the minutes? Any corrections to the minutes? All in favor of accepting the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously for approval of the minutes of November 23rd, 2020. Under new business, A, we have a discussion on a potential zoning changes at Newington Junction. I'll go right to our town planner first and, and ask her what she thinks about getting this on the agenda for discussion and how she feels we should get the best public participation.
Thank you. So I think I will start by, if there are any public members that are present and watching this, just by clarifying that this discussion is really not related to anything that happened in front of the commission before. My understanding is that there was an application in front of the commission that perhaps included a rezoning of this area. However, that zone change was adopted only for property that the commercial property with Gibson gas station and the car wash. Am I correct in that? Maybe
That's correct, the west side.
Everything else was left because, again, from what I've seen in watching that meeting, there was a lot of commentary from public that they felt they weren't included. So the commission then said, you know what, if that's the case, let's hold off and have this vetted with the public as well. Now, my personal observations on this area, and I will tell you, when I was buying my house, I actually had put an offer for a house in area on Chapman, one house on Chapman Road, because I really like that neighborhood very much. Somebody outbid me, so I didn't get it. But that being said, I think that indicates just how much of a fan I am of these old subdivisions that are, every house looks different. They're working people sort of houses. They're not, one of these subdivisions where each house is exactly the same. There's some beautiful, absolutely beautiful historic properties. And then there is some interesting mix of uses. There is an elderly housing area. There is Chapman House, which I'm not exactly sure what that is, but that looks either as some sort of mixed use, or perhaps there is more than one unit. At least there is like more than one car on that parking lot. So my gut instinct when I look at that would be to perhaps not try and change that area too much. Perhaps we can talk about adding a little bit of density, in particular when it comes to homes that are historic and larger and could perhaps be converted from 1 to 2 units without too much of outside work on them. The area of interest to me was the industrial area off of Willard. So as you drive towards West Hartford, on the right-hand side, there is a Spring Street, and I keep on forgetting the name of the street after Spring. but
Shepherd
the
Drive.
That one, thank you. Those end in this industrial kind of area. And those industrial properties were located there historically because there was a train that went by, so it was accessible. But right now, I think only access is off of Willard Avenue, which is really not that suited to carry a huge amount of trucks and buses and whatever. And I also feel that perhaps rezoning those, or not rezoning, but adding an overlay incentive zone to those industrial zoning districts could allow some additional opportunities for people. And I'm thinking that probably market will then do its push to create some change there, because a property owner that has currently an industrial site, but that industrial site is kind of illogically placed, it doesn't have a very good access, and could perhaps convert that site to housing that is less intrusive to the residential neighborhood around, as well as more beneficial for the property owner, could actually work. So that is my just kind of my gist, my instinct tells me that we could look at that way. And I'm bringing this up because that also then makes me think about who do we need to have in these conversations with public, like how far do we go and who do we notify about these kind of things. So I understand, and from the meeting before, I realized that probably a lot of people there will need some kind of mailing notice. We can advertise online, we can start interacting with anybody that has presently spoken to this matter, and we have some kind of contact, and let them know, and then hopefully they will reach out to their neighbors as well. But I would go at least from intersection of Stoddard and Willard to about 2 streets up from the Newington junction on Willard Road. I would include the West Hill, and I would include a portion of Francis as well into those notifications. Any place where I make a hard stop without some kind of logic or regulation or something, I am sure there will be a neighbor that's just outside of that circle that won't be very happy. But we have to stop somewhere. So so that is my initial take on it. Now, I would appreciate any help that the commissioners can give me with this kind of stuff.
Thank you very much, Renata, for that. I appreciate that. Commissioner Claffey?
I just, I want to clarify that this discussion is just a stepping stone to the true public coming together and having multiple discussions on this. This wasn't, and correct me, Chairman, this wasn't put on the agenda tonight in the form of the general public coming in and telling us what they want, what they don't want, what they need, what they don't need. I think it's more for the general public that's listening or is on this call or in this or listening on TV. This was for the commissioners and some other liaisons with our town council and other officials from the town to really, start the new step for that area of town. And I want to make sure the public understands this is not like next week it changes. This is a 4, 5, 6, 7 month process. I mean, it took many meetings when we did the one down
Fenn
on
Road.
Fenn Road at Fenn Road and at Cedar. And now we've kind of resolved that, and we're moving to a different section of town that needs some change. What that change may be, I don't know. And I just want to make it very clear, because it sounded like from the beginning of this meeting that some of the public may have been misinformed as to why this was on the agenda for tonight's new business. It's the first step in how we get to do a layover district in the TOD, or however you want to call it. And we know that there's multiple things people want to see. They want to be heard. They want to see maybe what it might look like. I mean, I didn't even think of the Chapman, I think the Chapman house is that big, looks like an old Victorian with the cupola on the top. And I've always known it as, I thought it was an apartment building, and someone's telling me, no, it's condos. And I didn't even think of that in this TOD area, because you come and you think of this area, all you're thinking of is the old Mobil gas station, which is now a train station or a bus station. So I just want to make it clear, that was my comment of this is just the first step to the people listening in the public, that we do listen to you. I used to be a resident. I could have walked there. I've since moved more closer to downtown. I used to live right off West Hartford Road, so I understand the congestion there. I bring my kids to Anna Reynolds every day, a couple of days a week, and I'm telling you, I understand that try to get there after school to pick up my kids, and it can take a long time. So this is just the first step in staying in communication with any of the commissioners. Our information's online to reach out to us if you don't want to, can't attend a meeting. We get things to the planner and just stand with us and help us move this forward in a diplomatic way. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Claffey. Commissioner Sobieski?
Yes, quick question. Are you referring to the Pillars house that Nels Nelson used to own? Is that what we're talking about? I mean, I have no idea where the Chapman house is.
It's the gray, it's the right next to the old firehouse that's back there. I think it's the square building, gray and white, beautiful columns. It almost looks half Georgian.
Right. That was Nels Nelson's house. They used to call it the Piers.
Oh, okay.
When Willard Avenue went straight across where Chapman Street is now, that used to be Willard Avenue, and it used to have a grade crossing there. And the state removed the grade crossing because of several fatalities. Same with Francis Avenue, built the bridge and relocated it. But that was one of the original houses in here where the old Company Tree was located right next door to it.
Gotcha.
Okay, now I was a little confused because I hadn't heard that. I've only been here for 71 and a half years, so I don't know. But that there, from what I understand, and maybe Donna can verify this, but I believe that's an apartment, was divided into apartments, if I'm not mistaken. I think there was a fire there a couple of, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But that was exactly my point, if I may, through chair, that that if there are more than one of these historic homes, there are some on Willard, there's some on West Hill Road, and there are at least one, if not more, on Chapman Road that are large in size and could perhaps be added some density through some interior conversion without affecting the feel of that neighborhood and how it looks and all that other stuff.
Thank you, Renata. Is there any other commissioners that have any comments or questions? I think that it would be important for us to review the regulations in this area and produce a TOD regulation similar to the Fenn Road regulation with two caveats that We definitely need to protect the historical houses, preserve the character of the area, and try to, with new development coming in, try to have that blend in with that character. And then also, I think it's very important in this area that we beef up the buffer between residential property and industrial property. I think that would be important for the people in that area. I think that possibly if the town planner could communicate with the town engineer, we have a GIS plan where we could look at a map and maybe we could start with a half-mile radius or a quarter-mile radius, get an idea of how many houses that are in that area, along with the condos, just to see how many people we'd have to send letters to. And then if we start with the half-mile, then we can go from there. We can either increase or decrease depending on how many people we have to notify. If we could keep this on the agenda and then we could get some additional information from the town planner, I think that would be the route to go. I think we need to determine the number of people that we're going to notify in person by a written letter. Does that sound all right with the other commissioners?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Woods. Any other comments?
I think if somebody in public who wants to comment.
I do, and I'm going to bend the rules, and I'm going to have Ed speak now, even though there is no chance for public participation right now. I think it's important if he must have a comment concerning this. So, James, if you could unmute him, I'd appreciate it.
Can you hear me, Mr. Payne?
Yes, I can, Ed.
I just want to know if I could get a commitment tonight that the TPC definitely will include Westchester residents of the decisions on the east side of Willard.
The Westchester condos?
Yes.
Yes, we will make sure that they get notified. You have my commitment. Would you like to give the town planner the contact information for them? Or do you have the contact information?
Well, would it be sent to all the residents or just to the board people of the condo complex?
Renata, we'd probably send it to the board and then they would notify their people. How would we do that?
I think it'd be better if each resident got a mailing of it, so people were informed, because there is some people that rent and some people that own. I'm a longtime owner, and I think that not only the board should be aware of it, but all the residents should be aware of it too. So if they can include a mailing of all the residents that live on Surrey Drive.
Ed, that's the complex right next to the gas station. Is that correct? Or 2 houses down? Or
yes, it's in back of the car wash and the gas station, but it is on the west side. But we here feel that we want to be informed of what's going on the east side too, even though we're not on that side of the Willard Avenue.
Okay, you have my commitment as chairman that we will notify each resident in that condo complex, Ed.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Ed.
If I may, through chair.
Certainly, Renata, go right ahead.
I'm not certain that I'm going to have information on the residents. We can send it to each unit number, but normally we would have information on the property owners, which may or may not live there, and their mailing addresses. So
it could be just to the resident of unit number such and such.
We just send a generic to resident of the unit, whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
But can I ask?
Go ahead, Commissioner Claffey. Go right ahead.
I know we're going to talk about that. There's a lot of other, 2-3 family houses in that, let's just say a half-mile radius of that. Let's say use the intersection of Willard and West Hill. And definitely that complex comes within that half-mile. But I want to make sure with what was just said that, the owner of record versus the resident, there's an obligation between the owner and their tenants to communicate information. And I think to Ed's point is, I think I used to live in a complex that was within a half mile of that as a condo owner. And, I don't know if I would want, if I was renting it, my resident to get mailings that were really meant more legally for the owner of the property. Again, that's my opinion. I think that's why we have these talks, but I think we have to really hone in on, do you send it to residents or do you send it to owners? Because we use the word resident as everyone's a resident of Newington, but there might be some things where the onus has to be also on the complex board of directors to make sure that people are aware of what's going on for people who rent in their facility, because there is some laws between the rental facilities and owners. So I want everyone to know what's going on, but we could be encompassing a huge bill here, to all the owners and all the residents. I mean, there's, the complex I lived in had 10% were renters. So you only knew 10% out of I think we had 100 and something units were renters. So we only had to worry about 10 or 12 units when we had to give mailings. So you kind of have to also remember there's, 2-family, 3-family houses in there that this notification, do you just do it to the owners or everybody? I know it's a tough call.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Claffey. Excuse me, Ed, do you have something else you'd like to discuss?
Yes, we do have a lot of renters, and there is people that do own that don't even live in the state, that they almost could care less as long as they get their rent. But the renter who lives here would be impacted by the traffic and everything else. So we have 51 units. If they just literally just did to the occupant or resident mailing, I think that would work better, because someone who's renting out their unit doesn't even live here and just wants to collect the rent.
Okay, thank you very much, Ed. Okay, I will work with the town planner, and we'll present something at our next zoning meeting to the commissioners on a potential outreach of how many people we're going to have to send letters to, if that's acceptable to all the commissioners. Commissioner Sobieski.
Yes, I thought we had discussed once before we could send out a postcard and let them know that something was coming up. Did we not do that when we were talking about the west side at one time?
I'm not sure whether or not the last time we used this was on Cedar Street, and I thought it was letters, but it could have been postcards that they mailed out.
It was letters, but I believe at that time there was some, when we discussed the west side a little while ago for the oil company, I thought people had brought that up, and I suggested a postcard just to let them know something was going on, and maybe to go look at the website or whatever. And I thought it would be cheaper that way than sending out first-class letters. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sobieski. Good point. Any other commissioners have comments? Okay, we're going to, we'll keep this on the agenda and we'll present something at our next meeting. The next thing is the status of bond releases. Renata, I'll turn this over to you.
So I'm not much closer to resolving this to what we talked about before. I have found a spreadsheet, which then James just today showed me a different spreadsheet, which appears to be perhaps more accurate. I'm also looking at a memo from former town planners dated September 15, essentially saying TPZ has now, over the past few months, voted to receive all but the very oldest and very newest performance bonds. And the very oldest ones are the ones with probably missing records and issues that Craig had too. So this is an ongoing project, and I'm gonna just keep on trying
I
to figure it out.
I think, Renata, that we discussed the older ones too, and some of them are being sent back to people. What I'm gonna do is if you go back in our minutes for our last few meetings that we had with Craig, we talked about this, and I'm gonna try to research it, and then I'll sit with you and I'll try to straighten this out, because I think we resolved just about everything. So to save you some time, I'll contact you next week, and we can talk about this. Any questions from the commissioners? Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, commissioners. Didn't we settle just about everything on this?
We only had maybe less than 5. I thought there was very few. I'm just throwing 5 as a number, but I mean, I'm looking at some of these things on my screen. I thought we resolved, like, let's just, for instance, the Patrick Snow one, and then the
Yep, that is resolved.
You know, so yeah, I think there's, in the Waverly Drive was that driveway dispute, and it was like, well, it's so many years gone by, like 95 Waverly Drive right there. Like, I don't know, present a check to the person, and if they want the money, take it. If they don't, then I don't know what to do.
I'm gonna, yeah, I'm gonna search through the minutes, and I'll work with Renata on this, and I'm almost positive that everything has been resolved, and I also have a couple of notes from the meetings that we had. So it would be nice if Renata started from a clean slate on this, and so that we had a clean slate moving forward. So is there any other recommendations from the commissioners on this? Or is there any other comments or concerns? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on to old business. We have petition 34-20, which is a referral of a proposed Conservation Commission Inland Wetlands Agency Regulation Amendment, Newington Conservation Commission applicant on vernal pools. So I'll go to wetland staff, which is Mr. Hinckley.
Yes, so we had our first public hearing at our last meeting. It was continued to make some suggested revisions, and the commission has come up with some revisions. Our public hearings will continue at our next meeting, which is next week. And the Conservation Commissioner Chairman is here, Mr. Sedil, and I'm sure he can discuss some of those changes with you if you like.
Any commissioners have any questions? Commissioner Claffey.
I have a question. Through you, Chairman. What were, and Andres can get into this if he wants to. I don't care who answers it. What was when you had your public hearing, like, I know when we talked about it, there was really no one in the public other than us talking about it. I don't remember any real public participation. So what kind of public participation outside of town employees or officials were discussed? Did any residents come and voice their pros, cons?
Unfortunately not. There was up to this point, there's been no public participation, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you.
On the TPC side, I think at our last meeting, we had 1 or 2 people that spoke opposed.
Yeah.
But
yes, and we've incorporated, if I may, Mr. Chairman, we've incorporated some of your recommendations from our last meeting a few weeks back. So what we did do, we polled the neighboring towns. Mr. Hinckley helped me with this. We checked West Hartford, Rocky Hill, I think Weathersfield as well, Mr. Hinckley. And Rocky Hill had a definition of vernal pools in their regulations, okay? And that's basically what we're seeing before you right now. We basically copy the Rocky Hill vernal pool definition. We made a very minor adjustment to what was in there already, but it's essentially the same definition. But we copied the Rocky Hill recommendation for this. So as far as the regulation is concerned, we're just adding the definition to the regulation itself. That's the only change that's going into the regulations. The buffer is still 100 feet. It's 100 foot. The indicators and the direct indicators. Now you have this definition of a vernal pool. So how do you know if you do or you don't? What do you look for? So I think the direct and indirect indicators are important to have or have for future commissions to evaluate. And what we did is we put this in an appendix in the back of the regulations where it's for reference only. And we state that at the top of the appendix, it's just for reference only for guidelines for vernal pool evaluation. Okay. So we want to take that out. We want to put all this complicated information in there, obviously, a lot of technical stuff. So it's good to know, well, what do you look for when the question comes up? So this was to alleviate the concern that this is reference information, guidelines, and not part of the regulation. So if the question comes up, we can draw on these guidelines and see if you do or if you don't, if a vernal pool exists on any particular site. So I think that's important. We don't want to clog the regulation with all this, technical language. So I think it'd be a good reference to have going forward if the question ever comes up. And so let me repeat, some of the confusion that we had. I mean, an applicant comes in with his, just like always, that does not disqualify him in any way, shape, or form that this interferes with that. It's just technical guidance for the commission that if the question comes up, we got guidelines to take a look at it and deal with it without having to call in, special consultants and wetlands lawyers and all that. We have something to draw on and we can answer that question on our own. So that's basically the long and the short of it. I think I covered the basic points. Still a 100-foot buffer, just like all the other applications. It'll be evaluated on its own merits on a case-by-case basis. And I think it's basically for the commission as a guideline. It's not to make life miserable for the applicants or, Green New Deal or anything like that. It's just information guidelines, because there was an application that came before the commission a few years back. Well, the vernal pools, this was a touchy subject. It was a hot button issue. We had consultants come say there wasn't one. We had people from the public came forward saying, well, they disputed what the applicants' experts were saying, and we hired another third party and we got to verify that. And all we got was basically a maybe. We didn't get any definitive answer. So this is there to deal with that in the future should it come up. And that's where we are right now, Mr. Chairman. We're just, as of the regulation, we define it. It's a standard industry definition. And I think it's sufficient for the regulation. And this other stuff, the analysis of the wetland and what's in there, that's basically reference information as a guideline to determine whether or not one exists on the property.
Thank you, Chairman Sadel. I think that you've made some very good improvements on this. So the definition for vernal pool still only applies for the wetland area and the 100-foot measured from the wetlands, that 100-foot review, upland review area. So then if a vernal pool is found on the borderline of the wetlands and the 100-foot buffer line, there's no intention of increasing the buffer area, but just identifying the vernal pool and protecting it.
That is correct.
Okay. Is there any questions from the other commissioners? Well, I think the improvements are appreciated. I appreciate those improvements. I think we had some concerns from some public, not a lot, but I understand it now better. And the indicators on the back is just for reference purposes only. So I feel a lot better about it. Is there any other questions or concerns or questions from the other commissioners on this? Thank you very much, Chairman Sadel. I appreciate your help on this.
Thank you, sir.
One question.
Yes, Commissioner Claffey.
in regards to this, do we have any action we have to take place to get it off our agenda? Or is it up to them to approve it? Like, I see it's all business. Are we doing anything with it?
I believe that they're going to have a public hearing on it.
It's still open. The public
gonna keep
hearing
it-
is still
okay.
open.
So we'll keep it on our agenda for the next meeting or whenever there's no like time frame with this that.
Right.
So it might appear next meeting, or it might skip a meeting and come back after you guys hold all your meetings.
Well, it'll still be on our agenda. They're going to have a public hearing, and I would expect that probably the town attorney will review this again and give their opinion. And then at our next meeting, I guess, I'll ask the town planners, do we have to act on this in any way, or?
No, this is not an action item for you. I think this is presented to you as a referral, so it would be helpful for them, I think, to have either a favorable referral or a referral that indicates some kind of opposition that we can then summarize and put into record.
I'm certainly more comfortable with it now after the changes that they've made, and I would suspect some of the other commissioners are the same.
If I may, for 1 minute, Mr. Chairman, and just, so once our public hearing is done, and if they close it and when conservation adopts it, those regs still go before town council to get final approval.
And they will ask for your recommendation at that time.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate you both working on these changes to accommodate the concerns that everybody had. All right, if there's nothing else on this, we'll move to the next item. We have a petition for scheduling, and I believe the town planner is sent that to CROG or not?
No, this is a special permit application.
Okay.
It's scheduled for public hearing. There is an existing restaurant and they're seeking a liquor permit.
Okay, so we'll have that at our next meeting then?
Yes, so this will be one of the 2 public hearings that you will have next time. The other one you scheduled at your last meeting, and it is for the zone change on Fenn, for the regulation amendment, I apologize, on
Fenn Road?
Fenn Road, yes.
Okay. Okay, I don't think you have anything on the town planners report, or you can go right ahead on the town planners report if you have something.
Sure. Yes. So I'm not sure if this will be successful, but I sent James a screenshot that I took at a conference I recently attended at the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities. And there were 2 screenshots that I took a picture with my phone and sent to him. So we'll see how that displays. But the numbers that I saw there were quite concerning to me.
Which screen would you like first, Renato? The circles or the lines?
Circles.
Okay.
So as you will see on this screen that we're showing up, this is a data for Connecticut, for state. Our GDP has declined quite a bit. Our employment or unemployment has increased significantly. And this is mainly obviously due to COVID. But then if you can move on to the next slide, James. This is the one that really kind of gave me a little bit of a pause. I mean, it shows just number of percent of businesses that are either reducing their employees, they're reducing hours their employees work. They conclude with statement that if current economic conditions remain, 53.8% of Connecticut businesses are expected to go out of the business within next year. So with that in mind, I mean, the reason why I'm even bringing all this doom and gloom to you is because I think we have to be very conscientious of the current economic climate and perhaps put ourselves in the position where we're better mendable in future, easier to do some changes to things. So to start my report, and I wanted to talk to the commission before I send this out. I will email you all my actual report tomorrow. I looked at our zoning regulations, and there are three elements that I feel we have to talk about. When I was hired here, I was essentially told our regulations are very unfriendly. One section refers to a back section that refers to another section. And there are issues with that because there are historically some approvals that were made that were based on the wrong reference in that sense, whether that was by the error or whether that was because it was needed to be done and we just didn't have like a good definition or something to fit it, so we had to do it that way. But and that definitely needs to be looked at and cleaned up. But in my opinion, the bigger issues are these other three that I will talk to you about. So the first thing is we over-regulate. If you scroll down this, you will see I pulled out like two simple zoning districts where we have 4 or 7 uses that are permitted as of right, but then we have 16 or 13 uses that require special permit. And these special permits are not always related to their impact. We require special permits for restaurants in every single zone. In the business turnpike zone, perhaps that is one of those things where we shouldn't be asking for special permit, or we should regulate restaurant differently. So if a restaurant has certain capacity, if it draws certain amount of customers per hour or certain amount of parking, then we could require special permit for that, but then issue these smaller restaurants should be able to get just a regular zoning permit without having to go through all of this process, which is disencouraging. To just explain this, when we talk about approval process, there are essentially 3 ways in which things are approved. Zoning permit is something that can be signed at our counter in the office and processed in like 2 or 3 days. It's incredibly predictable. It has to meet zoning regulations. There are no ifs, buts about it. It provides predictability, consistency, and certainty for an applicant that they will come in, they will get approved, or if they're denied, that they need to plant a tree or whatever they need to do, and then it can be approved. And it's simple as that. It doesn't cost them money. They don't have to hire attorneys and architects and engineers and all kinds of other people. Then there is a site plan. Site plan is related to an actual activities on site, actual construction. Are we building something? Are we adding parking? Are we doing things like that require grading and those kind of things? Those are the things that should require site plan. Special permits should be viewed, in my opinion at least, as use that can create some impact. And there should be some threshold, like in the zoning district, if you're going to have 30 parking spaces that to accommodate your business in the zoning district, that's impactful. So therefore, here we will manage your use by special permit. So those are some of the things that we should definitely look into. In a business zone, restaurants, brew pub restaurants, these, like I say, these certain low impact service things like a printer shop or dry cleaner should not really require special permit, at least not in my opinion. By the way, I'm going to email this over to you, and I really don't want us to conclude what we're doing with this tonight. The intent and the reason why I didn't send this out to you before is I wanted to talk about it first, then I'll email it to you, and then you can review it, and then we can talk about it at the next meeting and maybe the meeting after that. This is just an introduction of items that I have identified as significant that we should really focus on and sooner rather than later. My other issue with the zoning regs is the ambiguity. We need much more things defined, and some of the things that are coming up are these issues of what is a contractor yard versus contractor storage. We have a zoning district that allows contractor equipment sales and service. It does not allow contractor equipment storage. However, in that zoning district, we have a precedent of an approval for storage of construction equipment, which then leads me to believe that commission's interpretations, or at least the planner's interpretation before me, was that this is somehow included. It would be really helpful to have that language set in the regulations so that we don't have to worry about that, and we have, again, consistent, predictable, repeatable kind of approval system. The other part is this food service establishment. So this is where it gets into that back section to back section thing. There is a property owner that has been advised by previous planner to apply for the zoning map amendment for a property. And the reason for that was because he had two businesses approach him. One was for some kind of ice cream smoothie type of a place, like a food establishment where you would go in and buy like smoothies or ice cream or something. And the other one, I suppose, required the liquor permit. And he's in industrial zone, so those kind of uses are not allowed. However, changing the zoning district to this PD zone, I don't think would even accomplish, again, him having that, because PD zone refers to permitted uses in business zone. Permitted uses in business zone do not include food service establishments or places that run with liquor stores.
I think the PD zone also includes the Berlin Turnpike and the other ones, so it might, I'd have to look at it again, but it might allow that. But I mean, I don't know what industrial area you're talking about, but so
if you can convince me otherwise, great. But I read through the regulations, and this is kind of one of those things with the fresh eyes, so that you identify more likely things that are either not quite there. The PD zone refers to section 310, which is permitted uses in business zone, which do not include this. And 314, again, permitted uses in Berlin Turnpike zone does not include, restaurants are special permit everywhere. So it doesn't reference that section. So anyway, so that's a problem. And we need to definitely look into how we can fix that. This whole ambiguity issue. Another part that is concerning me in our regulations is that I don't see that we have site development standards that are well defined. We have buffer requirements, and it seems to me that a lot of that has been open to sort of negotiation at the meeting. So an applicant comes in, the commission consider what kind of neighborhood that proposal is in, and then you work with the applicant about how to best develop that site so that everybody's protected. That is sometimes appropriate and sometimes helpful. However, it would be helpful to have at least some basic elements in that are applicable every single time, that we don't have to have these fights at the meeting when somebody just doesn't want to do something. Point something at the regulation that says, well, you have to, so tough. And then lastly, the parking. I have worked in several municipalities, and I have not seen ratios for parking that are quite as high as here anywhere. This is also an item that a tax assessor has told me is one of his main complaints from people trying to come in, get a business in, or the people that are leaving because they just can't pay. You know, parking costs, it's included in your rental value. So when somebody is renting a building at $8 per square foot, plus add $1 per parking, and you require so many parking spaces, it adds up. So the rents tend to be higher when we have these high requirements as well. So those are the main sort of sections that I think, and I advise commission to actually think about it and then make me do them, because those are the biggies for sure. The other thing that I just wanted to briefly report is I spoke to Glenn Chelder about 2 weeks ago. I had a meeting with him with regards to the affordable housing plan. The plan that him and I, or schedule that him and I have devised is I am going to send you, because I was waiting to get the most up-to-date affordable housing plan draft to begin with. I'm going to send this to you for review. Then next meeting, we can talk about when we would like to have Glenn come in to discuss this with us. He is essentially used up all of budget. So he had told me, you know, you guys, if you want to talk about before I come to the meeting or after me, but he is willing to come in to one of your meetings, one more. So maybe I'll send this around, then next meeting we can revisit and see when we would like to have that discussion with him.
Sounds very good, Renata. I appreciate that. And on affordable housing plan, I think that would be great if you could send it out to us. And we could take some time to read it and review it, and then put together some questions so that when Glenn comes in, that we are ready for it. As far as your recommendations on the zoning regulations, I think it's important for all the commissioners to keep an open mind and take one item at a time and discuss it with more depth. And you possibly could have great suggestions on certain things. So I think it's important for us to keep an open mind. I will keep an open mind, and so that we can pursue some of this to try to make our regulations as friendly as possible, and that works for bringing businesses in, but also protects the residents and protects the public. I'll open it up to the commissioners. Does any commissioners have any comments on the report or anything else that we've just been discussing? Commissioner Sobieski.
Yes, the report, Renata's, excuse me, Renata's report was very good. I just don't want to see, I don't know if anybody remembers other than you, Dominic, that what we, Jim Brown, we did that, his plaza, one building at a time, and all of a sudden the parking got used up real quick. And it was then, and they had to come back with another traffic pattern in there. So I just don't want to see that where all of a sudden we just say, okay, fine, we're not you're going to open up more parking. I want to be able to control what we have so we don't have traffic issues. That's my only concern.
Mm-hmm. Great points, Commissioner Sobieski. We have maybe 2 or 3 properties that got overbuilt possibly, and they're tight on parking, and that would be one of my concerns too. But like I said, I think it's important to keep an open mind and maybe evaluate our parking compared to some of our surrounding towns, and let Renata present information to us that she feels might help the town. Commissioner Lenars?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the town planner's report, and I agree that sometimes by having a fresh set of eyes, sometimes we're blind to see what we've looked at for so long, and sometimes some ideas might be refreshing and adopted, who knows? But I think most importantly, the commission should really focus on that screen that James put up, that the planner went to some seminar or convention where those businesses were and those percentages were there. That one, thank you. That's a pretty aggressive screen to look at. If anybody owns a business in this town and has been affected by it, some of them have been affected differently than others. But that screen right there, all the commissioners should take a good hard look at when we start talking about how business friendly we are in this town, regulations that we want to regulate going forward. We talked about signs, we talked about parking. I think it's a tough time right now. I'm not saying let our hands down and let the businesses do what they may, because we need structure. But now I don't know if it's the greatest time to be tightening things down with signage. I don't think we should let businesses do what they want. We shouldn't put signs in roadways or in sight lines, but we should be very cognizant of the times that we're having right now. I'm hoping things are going to change, and I hope things will flourish when they do change. But right now, I'm a pro-business guy. I always have been, and I'm a pro-sign guy. I know some of you might not want to hear that, but if it's allowed in the town, we should allow it, and we should help these businesses do business. We need to help these businesses continue to stay open and do business in this town. And that last bottom number of 53.8, that's a pretty alarming number. So we need to do what we can and be business friendly in this town going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lenars. Great points. I agree with you. We have to do everything possible to not to let 50% of our businesses fail in Newington. And I think the commission has been doing a pretty good job approving things in a speedy fashion. And if there's new items that can be presented to us from our town planner that can improve things, I'm willing to have an open mind on it.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just one more thing. I can't say enough about the job. You as chairman, the people that are on this board, I know we all know without talking about it, there's people from different aisles on this board. There's Republicans, there's Democrats. I think on this board, we're just one cool board. I think I enjoy working with everybody here. Everyone contributes, brings in great points. I just can't stress enough that we need to be pro-business, business friendly, and accommodate these businesses, just like we did when COVID started back in March, when you led the efforts with the planner at the time, getting the barricades to these people, expanding the outdoor dining. That was huge for some of these people. And I don't think if you didn't do what you did then to these businesses, if they'd still be there today. So you need to be commended for that. The old planner, hopefully the new planner's on board with that type of thinking, and the rest of these commissioners, because I think we need to back these businesses going forward. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Lenars. Any other comments from commissioners?
Yeah, Tom Gill, Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Gill.
Just a point there, as far as the restaurants, the town is going forward again and taking care of helping the restaurants out. Some of the restaurants are wanted to get the barricades removed for the winter, and the town has done that already in behind Rooster in the center. And they are very cooperative in that respect.
That's good. Very good. I think it would be important too to know that if any of the restaurants call the town planner, that I think in the springtime, if they still want to, early spring, they want to have these outside dinings increased again. I'm all for having the staff accommodate them in early spring. Hopefully the vaccination will come out for this COVID and it will be given out to everybody in a speedy fashion, and we can improve things from there. Any other commissioners have any comments? Is there any communications, Renata? I don't think there's no communications coming in. We'll go to public participation. If there's anybody from the public that would like to speak right now, go right ahead. There's a phone number ending in 070.
Hi, it's Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive. It was interesting to hear your discussion tonight about the Newington Junction issue and the change in zone. I think that I, for one, and probably others who are concerned about what may or may not happen there, are going back in time, thinking about when the busway came in and how we had many, many meetings, and no matter what people said, the state did what they wanted to do. And I also, on several occasions, have brought up the Newington Junction study. That was not something that you did, but it was a council doing, and that study was done without any public participation until the very end. And I clearly remember the consultant remarking that this was the first study he had ever done for anyone that a charrette was not held. So while some of you were not on the commission at the time, and some of you probably don't remember, the public and the residents in the area remember what has happened in the past. So I think that the people speaking out now may seem premature to you, excuse me, but I think that they want to get a jump on it before it gets a jump on them. I understand the need to go ahead and get things pushed through quickly, especially during this times when businesses, if they're coming in, we want to keep them here and we want to get them in here. But some things that I have seen in public hearing be closed the same day that it's opened and brought to a vote at the end of the meeting are things, in my opinion, that probably could have waited to the next meeting. But I get where you're coming from, and I understand that. Speaking of the pillars on Chapman Street, and I believe that is the name of the building that our town planner is referring to, that has been something that I was thinking, why do I remember the pillars? Well, I remember the pillars because friends of mine used to live there in the 70s, so it's been apartments for a while. But prior to that, I just Googled it, and the Seymour family owned that building, or owned that big house. And when there was only one Mr. Seymour left, a couple came in to take care of him, the Archers. And after Mr. Seymour died, the Archers moved to Windsor and opened their own nursing home. Mrs. Archer was convicted of murdering her first and second husbands with arsenic. So that was, her conviction was the basis for the play Arsenic and Old Lace. So I guess we have to keep the building there just to remind people that we do have little shady things going on here in Newington sometimes, but people aren't from Newington, let's put it that way. But it is a historic district, and I think that, and also in Googling, they mentioned that the Newington Junction West Historic District was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1987. So when you start doing the overlay, I don't know what restrictions there may be, but let's hope we can keep some of the buildings that are there. And we don't have too many of them in town. So let's do it the best we can to preserve what we do have. Thank you. Have a happy and healthy New Year. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and any other holiday that's being celebrated between now and your next meeting. Everybody stay safe and stay well.
Thank you, Rose. Appreciate your comments. I think it's our intention to not rush the discussion at the TOD area for West Hill. We definitely we're definitely concerned about the public, and that's why we're going above and beyond and sending out communications to people, which is not really required. We are definitely concerned about protecting some of the historical houses there, just so you know.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other public that would like to have a comment? Anybody else from the public? Okay, I'll go to remarks from commissioners. Commissioner Sobieski.
Yes, does anybody read what I send them from CROG? I get it twice a month, I believe, or 3 times a month, and I put it out to everybody. I'm just wondering.
I read it.
Anybody else?
I go through it.
Do you send it to the town planner too or no?
No, I don't. I did send it to Eric. I can put you on the list to send it to you if you want. You
It
just
would
send me
be,
your
it
send
would
me
be,
your email, please.
yeah, I will.
I don't think I received any new updates.
There was one that came out Saturday night, I think.
Saturday, I did send you to you, Hyde. You have it. I know that
Oh,
There was a few interesting things. There's been a lot of debate on that, and it brings up a good point, Stanley. There's been a lot of debates over on some zoning changes in the little bit of Newington that abuts the West Farms Mall and in through Costco in through there. So it's a hot area to watch because there's been some, and I've asked the last planner to watch it, and it kind of fell off. But there's a big dispute right over there by the old Babies R Us, which I don't know there's a store there called Pure Hockey. I don't know if that's in Newington. I don't think it has a Newington address, but I think the property lines runs right through the building there. And there's a big issue over there with West Hartford and some of their zoning issues. So I do read it for some of that stuff of what affects Newington. So thank you, Stanley.
One of the things at the last meeting that I was at is there's some talk, and the Farmington planner said that West Farms may be scaling back, and they may be looking to some of the anchor stores may be moving somewhere down the line out of there. So that's of concern to Farmington and West Hartford both. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sobieski and Commissioner Claffey. Commissioner Sobieski, I think it would be extremely important to send that also to our town planner so she can review it. Commissioner Fox thought he called me and he thought that there was something on there with a height restriction or something with Newington, and I didn't get a chance to read it this last one. Is there anything in there on Newington?
Yes, there was. I believe it was the height restriction on Myricone Way that said that we were going to hold a meeting on it. We haven't yet. So we're putting stuff in there basically into the report prior to us even discussing it. So I don't know. We've never done that before. We usually discussed it, made our recommendations, whatever we did, passed it, and then it got put into the CROG. We're going just the opposite way now.
Are these the municipal notifications that you're talking about? So when a text amendment or zone amendment comes in, we send them. Is this what is in this report from CROG?
That's exactly what it is. If you send somebody in a text amendment or whatever, whether or not it's been discussed, goes on that report. And
so one thing of note on that is that West Hartford has put up a moratorium for area abutting our Newington Junction area.
Yes.
And moratorium is essentially to prevent any development until they figure out how to do the TOD development, which then kind of ties into what I was saying about, we should perhaps consider doing some overlay on those industrial zone properties, because it will essentially just extend whatever they're doing too.
Was that in the right near the town line, or was that on New Park Avenue where the busway stops? I thought it was in the New Park Avenue area. That's what they had on TV that they were showing.
You know what? Actually, now that you say that, I think you're right. I think I saw it first, figured out it was a junction, but it is on the other side of New Park. It's next to that building that got built there.
Right, and what they had done, if I'm not mistaken, they had put in a moratorium on no housing. I think it was businesses, and they wanted to put it within a 5-minute walk, is what they said. So I don't know what they're talking about in that area. I know that they were looking to do some additional development. There's a couple older buildings they want to rip down, but I have no idea what's going on there.
Thank you, Commissioner Sobieski. Commissioner Claffey, do you have anything?
No.
No, you're all set? Okay. Is there any other commissioners that have any comments?
Hold on 1 second.
If there's no other comments from the other commissioners, I want to thank everybody Thank the town planner and the rest of the staff. I want to thank James. And I want to wish everybody a happy holidays, a Merry Christmas. Let's hope that we get this vaccine out for COVID as fast as possible so that we can move on here in Newington and everywhere else. If there is nothing else, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Commissioner Sobieski. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.